Greetings, everybody. This is Dr. Jonathan Cox, your resident race scholar, here with another mini lecture on race. In this mini lecture, I'll address a question that many people have and few people seem to be able to answer. What is racism? Often there are many different, sometimes conflicting definitions of racism floating around in society, so it's not surprising that many people are confused. First off, I think it's critical that we reframe our idea of racism. This is important because when people have incorrect or limited perceptions of what constitutes racism, that has detrimental impacts on any conversations about race and racism, as well as what should be done to address racism. Most people understand racism as a belief that some people are inherently different or inferior solely based on their race. Or they see racism as individual actions that communicate these beliefs or discriminate against people based on race. Now, I'd actually like you to reconsider that this is more accurately a description of individual prejudice, and it's too limited. Prejudice is an aspect of racism, so it makes sense that people would be confused. So then, what is racism? Now, racism can more accurately and fully be seen as systemic and structural conditions that reproduce inequalities along racial lines and an ideology of racial domination. Now, what is the integral part of understanding racism this way? Power. Racism involves power. The power to impact the lives of others or redistribute or limit resources or to determine what is considered normal or dominant, for example. It's important to approach racism from this perspective as systemic and structural conditions, which are inclusive of individual thoughts and actions. Now, I'll come back to this in a minute. Often, discussions about racism engender questions about who can be racist, mainly towards the goal of proving that people of color can be racist in the same ways that white people are. Now, I think this is actually the wrong question. Instead of asking who can be racist, or if people of color can be racist, we should be asking what forms of racism have the biggest impacts. Now, this is when understanding that racism involves power becomes most helpful. Can people of color discriminate against others because of race? Yes. Do people of color have the collective power to impact systemic changes based on race? No. White Americans do, however, and that power has shaped our institutions and society over such a long time that their individual prejudices reinforce systemic racism. We can use an illustration of an inverted pyramid to help us reframe our understanding of racism and to visually explore the concept of systemic racism. Now, using this inverted pyramid is a great way to see how broader forms of racism, like societal and ideological racism, are more fully encompassing and have broader, more significant impacts than individual racism, which most people tend to focus on. Conceptually, think of this entire pyramid as systemic racism, with each of the various levels of the pyramid representing aspects of systemic racism. Put another way, systemic racism encompasses all of these different types of racism. Starting at the top of the inverted pyramid, we see societal and ideological racism, which includes the dominant beliefs and ideologies of society that are the basis for racism. That the U.S. was created based on an ideology of white domination. The white colonizers believed that they were superior to the indigenous people already here and the enslaved Africans they brought for labor. Now, we can see vestiges of this original ideology throughout history up until today. Moving down to the next level of the pyramid, we see institutional and structural racism, which involves how racism is built into our institutions and systems. Now, these systems were predicated upon the beliefs that people of color were not equal citizens with whites, and through this ingrained racism, they became self-perpetuating. These systems effectively run themselves at this point, such that a complete reworking of the systems is necessary in order to change them in any significant way. The next level down, interpersonal racism, is where we finally start getting to see interpersonal relationships. Now, this involves things like who people choose to interact with in various social arenas, the neighborhoods that we live in, who we attend church with, where we send our children to schools, and who is in our friend groups, among many other decisions and actions. Now, what's also important to note here is that the structures and institutions that exist impact interpersonal relationships. For example, institutional racism in wealth and housing lead to residential segregation, which limits cross-racial interactions, particularly for white Americans. Finally, on the lowest, smallest level of the pyramid, we move to individual racism, or one-on-one interactions, like how we treat our neighbors and coworkers, or people we run into in our daily lives. Now, the individual level of racism includes interactions involving bias, prejudice, and discrimination. For example, this would be where we could discuss all of the recent events in which white people have called the police on black people with no cause, like the woman who threatened to call the police on a black man who was bird watching in Central Park. Again, this is a great model for us to understand racism because it helps to show us why individual racism or individual prejudice is actually the least impactful, at least on a macro level. Now, if we were to magically rid the US of all racist people, not much would actually change. The systems that we have in place would continue to reproduce racial disparities until they were overhauled to remove the embedded racism that exists within them. Finally, while focusing on more fully defining racism is important, we should also discuss what racism is not. First, racism is not about good or bad people or nice versus mean people. Now, this focuses almost entirely on individual motivations for racism, which, as I have just explained, is much too limiting. Second, racism is not about intentions. It's about outcomes. Even if someone does not intend to be racist or intend to discriminate against someone, the result is that someone experiences harm or someone loses out on an opportunity because of that racism. Finally, racism is not only relegated to old school covert racism, right? Calling black people the N-word or using other racial slurs or slavery or legalized segregation. Racism can also be systemic and structural, as we've discussed, as well as covert or passive. For example, people often use code words to hide their racial expressions, such as using the word urban or ghetto to subtly indicate that they're referring to black people. Additionally, colorblindness, the ideology that attempts to negate the importance of race, is actually racist itself through more covert ways. I hope that this brief mini lecture just helps you reconsider or reframe your own understanding of racism, and that with a more fully encompassing picture of what racism is and is not, the way you think about and discuss racism will change as well.